What was that?
It was the most amazing intro ever.
That was amazing.
That's our new intro, courtesy of our bro host, Chris Rhines. Thank you so much, Chris.
That was awesome, Chris. So cool. I don't even know what to think anymore. But to everybody else out there, hello. Welcome to another episode and installment of the Star Bros podcast. This is episode 65. We're coming to we're a bit virtual again tonight, unfortunately, because that COVID thing just does not want to go away. It's been 3 years. You'd think it would be like tired and want to take a nap by now.
It's definitely overstayed its welcome, but we're adapting and we're overcoming.
Yep. So we're coming at you virtual again tonight. But we've got a special episode lined up for you because we're going to be talking about Stormtroopers. And Jan, why don't you talk for a couple of seconds while I do something over here?
Sure. So this is episode 65, and we are going to be talking about Stormtroopers. And in order to facilitate some of the conversation, I think we're going to have an actual real-life Stormtrooper joining us. And there he is. This is TK 1113. Also known as
you can call me whichever TK number you want. I don't know. TK 65, since this is the 65th episode. How about that?
Can you not hear me? Yeah, he can't hear me. So he's just making things up. But we'll call him TK 1113 because it's not what he picked. But in real life, he is my bro host, Ben Skywalker. And I'm your
just introduced me, so I'll introduce you as well. You're my bro host, Jan Solo.
Thank you, TK. I appreciate it. If you could bring Ben back, that would be really helpful. For those of you who are listening on the podcast and you can't see, I don't know where Ben went, but all of a sudden I'm now joined by a Stormtrooper, and a pretty cool looking Stormtrooper at that. He's got his, as you would expect, his Stormtrooper helmet on. He's wearing a red Star Wars t-shirt. Didn't necessarily expect that, but hey,
no, it's not a Star Wars one. It's just a red t-shirt.
Just a red t-shirt. Well, it's the weekend, so you're a Stormtrooper on the weekend. You're a weekend trooper.
Now the question for you is, do you know which one this is?
That looks like probably like Return of the Jedi era Stormtrooper.
Close.
Empire?
This would be Empire.
Okay.
Yes. This is the Black Series. I wish I could remember the actual name, but yeah, it's from Empire Strikes Back. And my wife got it for me probably like 3 years ago or something like that, and I'm enjoying it.
I'm picturing the people who are going to listen to the podcast and they're listening in their car or something, and your voice is coming from the inside of the Stormtrooper helmet. It's amazing.
What's a good Stormtrooper line that I could say in this thing? Open the blast doors. Open the blast doors.
That's a good one. And then you can shoot the blast doors and they'll open because that was your intention. We've talked about this before.
Pew.
That's the best I got. Makes that sound. In the Star Wars galaxy, whatever you want a door to do, if you shoot it, it will do that thing. So if you want to close it and it's open and you shoot the button, then it'll close, and vice versa. So a little bit of Star Wars magic there for you.
How about I come back to just being regular me? Is that fine?
Sounds great. Yeah, come on back.
All right, talk for another 3 seconds. I'll be right back.
I prefer an awkward silence, but
awkward silence works too.
Welcome back.
Oh, hey, thanks. Who was here while I was away?
It was TK 65.
65? I thought you said 113. I'm so lost right now.
I said 1113, but then you reintroduced yourself with your proper TK number. Because remember, Stormtroopers are faceless and they are nameless, and they just have their kind of serial number that they live with.
That's true.
And so, I'm not very good at keeping numbers straight. So I apologize to TK 63 or whatever it was.
Well, either way, I hope that was a treat for listeners, or it might have just been the weirdest thing that we've ever done.
Questionable.
Yes. Yeah. Very, very questionable. I mean, we're professional podcasters at this point. We should be, we should be more professional than that.
We're professional, unpaid podcasters.
How about we get into, I guess I should ask first, how you been, man? I haven't talked to you
I'm good.
much.
How are you?
I'm good. Other than fighting off the COVID thing. I mean, I don't have it. Everyone else seems to have it, but I don't.
You're kind of in the eye of the storm. I'm hoping you don't get it. I'm hoping it doesn't spread anymore. But we're taking the proper precautions. We're doing what you're supposed to do.
Yes.
And recording separately. But I'm glad to hear that you're well. I'm about to ruin your night.
Oh, come on, man! It's
I have
Friday.
jokes.
Why would you do that? What do you have?
Jokes.
Jokes?
Yeah.
Dad jokes?
Well, this is an episode about Stormtroopers.
Okay.
And I have some Stormtrooper jokes.
Okay.
Just to kind of get us excited about the topic.
Go ahead.
All right.
Oh,
What,
I'm
what's
so
a
nervous.
what's a Stormtrooper's favorite store?
Favorite store?
Mhm.
Uh, I don't know. The something about Dalmatians because they're wearing black. I don't know.
The one next to Target.
That's actually really good. Uh,
Why isn't it special when your Stormtrooper boyfriend misses you?
why isn't it special when your Stormtrooper boyfriend misses you? Because if he's shooting at you, it's a good thing that he misses you.
It's not good. It's not special that your Stormtrooper boyfriend misses you because he misses everybody.
Yeah, there you go. I was like, it's got to have something to do with the Target thing again.
All right, last one. Why are Stormtroopers always late?
Something about missing targets again. I don't know.
Because they miss the bus.
They missed the bus.
Yeah.
What bus?
Why are they late? They miss the bus. They just, they miss their. I told you I was going to ruin your night.
that would have been the one to start with, like the one that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I ended on the bad one. They're
you
all
ended
bad.
on the bad one, which means it's a great one.
Right.
If you're going by the quality of dad jokes, it's
But
the
hey,
worse they are, the better they are.
That's true. But tonight's episode is about Stormtroopers. We'll get to that in a little bit. We have some other stuff to cover, but we did want to mention quickly that this is episode 65.
It is.
And the next
Why is that
one,
so special?
Because the next one, which will be good. This one might not. I don't know. It's going to be, we'll do our best.
The next one, I think if I follow your logic here, because after 65 comes 66. Should we just skip over that one?
No, we should.
Oh.
We should dive into episode 66 next time around. And we're going to
fully embrace it.
Fully embrace it. We're going to be talking about Order 66.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yes. It's a pivotal moment in Star Wars lore and history, but it's one that is coming back in a way because we're getting flashes of Grogu being saved from the Jedi Temple during Order 66. And I think we get potentially, and I think we're getting potentially some more of that in season 3 of Mandalorian. So everything that is old is new again, and that includes Order 66.
Buckle up, baby. This is going to be fun. How about we get into that? Since you're starting to allude into some of the news and that we need to cover, let's just get there. How's that sound?
Okay, that sounds good.
And then we can talk about that specific moment. But yes, we will be talking about Order 66 next time. That will be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But the first segment is called News from Across the Galaxy. That poor dude.
Yeah.
Order 66 will not be kind to him either, I'm sure.
Nope.
All right. So you started alluding to it. The biggest news that came out of the last 2 weeks for us was we finally got season 3, the trailer for season 3 of The Mandalorian dropped during Monday Night Football. It was the only time I've ever watched Monday Night Football in many years.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really watch football much. And it did not disappoint. I would love to get your thoughts on it. There are some really key moments which we got to talk about in the trailer, but what did you think overall?
So before we jump into it, I will just say that was one of the most fun nights on Star Wars Twitter in a long time.
Why is that?
Because everybody was tweeting sort of like counting down to, wait, how much longer until it drops? And
you mean for like half a second Star Wars Twitter was happy?
Happy and also kind of rallying around this experience of like, oh my gosh, we're getting a trailer that we're excited about and this is so much fun. And it was goofy and silly, and there was a lot of people who are tweeting stuff like, why am I watching a sports ball event? Like
that was me that tweeted something like that.
Like all that silly fun stuff. And then as soon as it came out, people are reacting, asking questions. What's going on here? Who's Babu Frick's friend? And so on and so forth.
There's another.
And so it was just like a really fun night of sort of the build up, the anticipation. I was enjoying Monday Night Football and that, but
good for you.
Some people get to have it all. What can I say?
Jock and nerd. Look at that.
Way more of a nerd, but I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
So I think as far as trailers go, I think they're supposed to do the job of telling you a little bit of the story while building continued anticipation for the show, and just getting you hype for what is to come. And I feel like it accomplished that for me.
So it's funny you say that because I think that this was one of the best trailers of all time and
Wow.
one of the worst trailers of all time.
Huh?
At the same time, let me explain. Because this was very exciting. Like there was a lot of great moments in it and things to get you excited. Babu Freak showing up. It had all the Mandalorians. Just I want every single one of them as a pop figure on my shelf back there. There were some great moments, and so that was one of the best trailers. Got you excited, like you just said. One of the reasons it was the worst was because usually the theatrical trailer, the second trailer, is the one that's supposed to tell you a little bit more
what
about
the story's
plot.
going to be.
What's the story going to be? What am I going to see this time? Not just like a visual, a visual confetti for you to just enjoy.
Dude, that's
and
such a
laugh
good way to put it. That's
Right?
such a good way to put it.
That's pretty much all this was, though. It was just another teaser trailer. Like the only real thing plot-wise that it gave us was that he was the Mandalorian, Din Djarin, is going to try to atone.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I have a hunch that that's not going to be the focus. Kind of like with season 2, where it was all focused on finding the Jedi. Like that was the whole theme of season 2. I don't believe that this is going to be the whole theme of season 3, but maybe I'm wrong. I feel like we didn't really get much on the plot.
Yeah.
And so it leaves me wanting more, which makes it a great trailer. But because it didn't really follow that norm, I'm like, wow, I have no idea what this is going to be about. You don't usually walk away from a second trailer like that.
That's fair. So yeah, you're
I'm
right.
not calling it bad. I'm just saying it didn't follow norms.
No. Yeah, I didn't think you were. So I think we get a glimpse of what might be an important arc this season of the Atonement, which surprised me a little bit. I wasn't sure if
what's
that's.
That?
I wasn't sure if. So first off, not really sure how much time has elapsed since the last time we saw Din Djarin. I kind of thought that perhaps he would start to grow beyond this whole thing of atoning and becoming or getting back in the good graces of the armor, etc., and being the Mandalorian that he pictured himself being and all that for a long time.
Maybe he does.
Maybe
he does.
So I was a little bit surprised that like that's the priority of this particular season, but I think you're right. Like maybe that's not a big part of this season. It could be like a red herring thing where they say,
yeah,
here's where we're going to start out. And in fact, it goes sideways very quickly. And all of a sudden there's something else that's a more pressing priority or something. I don't know. So I agree in that we don't really know what the story is going to be, but we got some really satisfying flashes of things.
Yeah.
We got glimpses.
We got a quacky monkey lizard in a tree.
Yes. We got that. We got what appears to be Jedi fighting off the troopers in the Jedi Temple during Order 66, which, as we mentioned, could be a little bit more of Grogu's backstory and how the heck did he get out of there.
Yep.
We get Babu Freak and his friend, and not sure why anybody's going to see them. That could be a pretty interesting plot twist.
Mando likes droids now, and so he needs a droid smith. I don't know.
I don't know. So there's pretty cool action to come. It sounds like they're going to be touching some other parts of the sequel trilogy, which is kind of cool. Like we're folding that into the story now.
We're going back to Mandalore, which
we're going back to Mandalore, which appears to be a smoking crater.
Yeah,
so
we know we're getting Bo-Katan. We saw her in the first trailer. So I wonder if they're going to do as many cameos as they did, or do a lot of tie-ins with like the Jedi. Will we get Luke again? Will we get Ahsoka? Like, I wonder. I have this theory that they might be going away from that model of season 2, where it's like, let's just throw every other spin-off that we can into this thing. Book of Boba Fett is another example. I do wonder if we will get Boba Fett though, so that's an open question.
Maybe.
But it looks like it might stay a little bit more true to just the Mandalorians this time, and that to me would be a good thing. I'm open for whatever it is, but that would be a really good thing to kind of stay focused on the Mandalorians this time.
I would be into that too, but I think that internal conflict for me is pretty interesting, but I think it is more exciting when there are external villains. So the Moff Gideons,
Yeah.
you know, whoever the client was, like those types of characters. So I hope we have more of those. And I hope we have some like, you know, bounty hunting adventures. You
Yeah.
know, like where he's sort of going back to what he knows and all that stuff. And I don't know. I think you're right. I don't know what to expect fully, but I think the flashes of what we got for me, pretty darn
Look exciting.
enticing.
Yeah. Well, let's go on to another tangential piece of news that
Mhm.
relates to that, which is around the same time they dropped the names of the directors for season 3.
Yes, and I haven't seen these, so fill me
Yeah.
in.
So I will fill you in right now. 3 are returning and 3 are new. And maybe the more surprising part about this is that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are not going to be directors on
At
any
all?
of them at all. I mean,
Wow.
executive producer still and still
Right,
running the
right,
thing.
right.
Like
Yeah,
that's not changed,
that's
but they
huge.
aren't directors. The directors that are coming back, Rick Famuyiwa, I can never say his last name. Sorry. But he was in he definitely directed an episode in season 1, or I think season
Yes.
2, a couple. He's coming back, but he's also the executive producer this time too.
Oh,
So
cool.
that's exciting.
Mhm.
Carl Weathers is going to be sitting in the director's
Yes.
seat again.
Yeah. He
And
did an awesome one of my favorite episodes was
yeah,
it was his.
that was a fantastic one. It stands on its own a bit too
Mhm.
in season 2. And then of course, one of our new favorites that sits in the director's seat, Bryce Dallas Howard.
So good.
Going to continue to get some more magic from her. I'm guessing hers is going to be another fan favorite episode, whichever it is.
I'm sure.
The names of the newcomers, and I looked them all up, and frankly, I didn't know much of their past work besides one of them, Lee Isaac Chung, Peter Ramsey. I did know something he did, which was he was a co-director of a trio of directors for Into the Spider-Verse.
No way. Pretty cool.
Yeah. And then Rachel Morrison was the last one, who had a lot of cinematography credits. I think Black Panther was one. So she's gotten a lot of both television and film credits. But again, it looks like they're very new to Star Wars. And I think Lee Casey's new to television. Most of his previous work was film. So we'll see.
And there's a long tradition since the very beginning of Star Wars of bringing talented people in and giving them the opportunity to do work like this.
Yeah.
And the bar is very high. And my expectation is that all these people are going to deliver in their own unique way. So
Yep.
I'm pumped for these new experiences.
Yeah, same with me. I mean, there's a few names that aren't on there that are surprising. I'm trying to. What's the Ant-Man director's name?
Dr. Mandible.
Yeah, no, I just looked it up. He does play him though, does the voice of him? I can't remember.
I think he
That's
does.
a cameo because of Ant-Man. Peyton Reed.
Peyton
my guess is
Reed.
he's just too busy with Quantumania right now. So
yeah, which I'm excited about, but that's
very
a different podcast.
Yes. And now we're announcing our Marvel spin-off podcast. Nope.
So, but speaking of other projects, it's pretty amazing. I don't know if you followed the fan reaction to The Last of Us on HBO, which stars Pedro Pascal.
Yep.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah.
I think so. This season is going to run in to The Mandalorian, and Pedro is going to be the leading man on multiple shows and multiple channels, and people are just going to be head over heels, I think, with both of those shows. So
he's basically going to dictate his next paycheck after that.
Yeah.
He's a rising star.
And I think back to when he told a story, I think it's Celebration, about when Jon Favreau invited him to his office to talk about The Mandalorian. And the phrase that Pedro used was, I went there thinking I was going to play some alien or some bug in space. And Favreau's like, no, we're considering you for The Mandalorian. This would be, you would be the main character. And he didn't know that going in there.
We just don't want to see your face is all.
Right.
That's all. It's nothing.
Pedro, baby, we love your voice. But now
whatever. He's a pretty handsome man, I'm sure. A lot of anyway.
well, he's now the leading man on multiple shows on multiple, Disney Plus is one of the biggest things. HBO is one of the biggest things ever. And now he's the leading man on 2, big landmark shows on both of those channels. So yeah, he seems like a good dude. So happy for Pedro.
Yeah, actually, he really does. Everything that everything that he says and does, I'm just like, that just seems like, yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, we're excited for Mandalorian season 3. We'll have
Mhm.
to talk about
Mhm.
that a little bit more as we
Mhm.
go through and survive the month of February for more reasons than one. One reason just because of winter. The other pieces of news that are out there. Why don't you talk about Celebration?
Yes, Celebration Europe is coming
Mhm.
up in April, which a lot of people took issue with the name because it's in London and politically the UK is no longer part of Europe, but that's a
Well,
separate debate.
no, it is. It's not no longer part of the EU.
Well, yes, and some people equate the EU with Europe, and some people equate
Europe
or
is a continent.
it is a continent. But some people say that the UK breaking away from the EU is turning its back on Europe. And
Okay. I mean, I understand that, but you can't say it's not Europe.
so we've gone from an Ant-Man podcast to a geopolitical current events podcast. But
We're
anyway,
very close to fun with flags. If you want a
so
another reference there and start that podcast, Big Bang
let's
Theory.
let's get the train back on the tracks here.
Take away.
This Celebration,
Sheldon likes
London,
trains too. Look at that.
April. They've announced all the guests, and there's a couple that are missing that I
A
would have
couple?
expected. Yeah,
Okay.
you and I are not going to be there
Oh man,
unless you win that contest that just
that
popped
just
up
popped
on your
that
phone
that shows
while
that
you're
Microsoft knows me.
playing Candy Crush with your
Yeah.
ad blocker off or whatever
So
you were doing.
for everybody, like we were just about to hit record, and I get this this alert from Microsoft, like win a trip to Star Wars Celebration. I went, does it know me or does it know me? Like that's pretty good. It's got my data somewhere in its cloud.
Yeah, yeah, it knows you.
Yeah.
But so Celebration is going to be over Easter weekend, which I know another thing people are sort of a little bit on the fence about. But my understanding is that in the UK, a lot of people have an extended weekend. And so a lot of people will be able to kind of get the Friday, Saturday package or whatever they might want to do. But the what I'm trying to get at here is Celebration's coming up. Europe this year, they just announced the lineup of like the headlining guests, and they'll add to this as you get a little bit closer.
Mhm.
But we have Anthony Daniels,
Know him?
Ashley Eckstein,
Who? Just kidding.
Matt Lantner,
Yep.
D. Bradley Baker,
Mm-hmm.
Giancarlo Esposito,
Know him.
Vivian Lyra Blair,
She's cool.
and Indira Varna.
Yeah. That I might actually, if I were to go visit it, it might have been her.
Yeah,
Because I loved her role as Tala.
yeah,
last year.
fantastic.
She was fantastic.
Yeah, she was a standout from that show. So we've got a lot of different big hitters, and that'll snowball. Other folks will make appearances, but those are all sort of front and center recognizable names in the Star Wars galaxy. So if you're going to go, tag us in some pictures. You know, share your experience on social media, and we will, with jealousy, enjoy looking at all those pictures and stuff like that back here in the States.
I just realized that I missed my opportunity for an Arrested Development line.
Do you want me to rewind? You want to go back?
Yeah, say one of the female names
Anthony
that's gonna be there.
Daniels,
No,
Ashley Eckstein.
her. There we go. That's all I wanted to do.
Well done.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right, moving on.
What else we got?
That's all very exciting. The very last one, and then we can get to our main segment.
Mhm.
Hey Lego fans, do you like Legos?
I do.
I know
do.
you do. Hey, I got you something similar to this piece of news.
Yes.
The Scout Trooper
Mhm.
helmet.
Mhm.
Speaking of Stormtroopers,
It's on display.
Yeah.
Next to the TV downstairs.
well, you can get another one from Return of the Jedi, the Boosh helmet.
Boosh.
Yeah, the disguise that Leia wears into Jabba's palace.
Mhm.
You can now put that. I guess bust, right? The isn't that what they call it? Like
Yeah.
when it's the helmet.
Yeah.
Usually when it's the head,
when it's a head or the head and shoulders, I think it's
Right.
typically called a bust. Yeah.
yeah. But I guess it's not shoulder, so it's not technically that. But you can build that, whatever that is. You can build that helmet and put it on your shelf on display. Because they're gonna be. It was announced that it's coming out, which is really
Yeah.
cool.
Just today, I think.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're on top of things.
Uh-huh. I love Lego stuff, but I just don't have enough space in on my shelves here.
No, it's amazing like how quickly your shelving does fill up. And I follow a girl online on Instagram who exclusively collects Star Wars Legos and assembles Star Wars Lego sets.
Yeah.
She actually had a running bit. I think it was in December where she would blindfold her brother, and he had to guess which Lego set it was because she would throw it at him and it would hit him.
You told me about this. Did you say this last episode, or is this just me?
It was recently.
You told me this.
But in the background, it's like floor to ceiling, wall to wall shelving covered with Lego stuff, and it's like she's gonna have to get a bigger house. Like,
Yeah.
it really does add up quickly. But I do love it too. You have to be a little bit picky about what you're gonna get.
You do, and that's the hard part. Or you take them apart and put them back in its box and then build it again later and just keep rotating. Like, I guess the fun never ends if you do that. But
Yeah.
I mean, I like building stuff and putting it on display too. So
I like putting it on display. And you know what else I've seen recently that I
What's
really
that?
like? Buying light kits for your Legos.
Oh yes, I need to get one for my Infinity Gauntlet.
You can get one for your Infinity Gauntlet. You can get one for the Razor Crest.
I can.
And then it's all lit up. Somebody sort of designed it so it looks like it looks like a model, like a scale model, almost like theatrical. So look into it. But I've seen a lot of people doing that on Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that. And some people get really creative where they, light up the rockets on the back of their Star Destroyer and stuff like that.
Yeah,
super cool stuff. So
yeah, I love it, man. I've got $100 in like Amazon credits that I can spend on anything. I'm like, should I just get another Lego set? So I'm really feeling a Lego itch right now. So I might be putting something together like that soon.
Very cool. Very cool.
Anyway, that's all the news that we got for you tonight,
Yep.
folks. Let us get into our main segment. Take it away.
More to the story.
Dun, 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 dun. And this one we're going to talk about this week is Stormtroopers.
Yeah.
And the title of this episode we decided to be called Storming the Castle.
Mhm.
I threw in Maz's castle, storming Maz's castle, but I don't know. I think we have another episode with Maz's name in it. Let's give that one a break. But yeah, we're just going to talk about Stormtroopers, about a bunch of different stuff. I did a bunch of different things to prepare. I have a book called Stormtroopers
Mhm.
that's just dedicated to the history of the cladded man in armor.
Yes.
And read that a little bit. I didn't read all of it, so got some more to do. I watched a documentary on the Rose Bowl parade, Star Warriors, and looked at that.
Cool.
It's more about like the 501st. So yeah, we're gonna go a little bit all over the place. But any ideas on where we should start with this one?
Dude, I've been dying to talk to you about something Stormtrooper related.
Okay, you start.
Since this morning. So I woke up.
It's been a long day for you, is what you're telling me.
I woke up this morning and I was on Reddit, which I don't recommend to anybody.
Wait. Was there like a bathroom break in there, a shower, or is this like first thing you do is wake up and get on Reddit?
It was one of the first things I happened to do today.
Over the bowl of cereal. Okay, got it.
Yep. And in the Star Wars subreddit, which is as good and bad as the whole Star Wars fandom can be, there was a really interesting thread that somebody started about the darker moments in Star Wars. What are some kind of heavy, dark moments from across all the different media that stand out to you, that sort of stay with you, that make you go, oh gosh, that was a little bit heavy.
Yeah.
And somebody put in there, it always stuck with me that the Ewoks ate the Stormtroopers that they killed.
Mm-hmm.
And then a bunch of people were backing them up. And I was kind of like, they did?
Like, I mean, yeah, they're barbaric. They had Luke and Han on a pole ready to roast them.
So they were definitely going to eat them.
Yes.
I don't disagree with that. But I guess I just never stopped and thought that, like, when at the end of Jedi, when they're playing like their helmets as bongos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I never thought about like, oh, they ate those guys.
It's no longer a happy moment for you. You're like, you're watching the celebration. All right, yeah. Those Stormtroopers. No,
they're just sort of dancing around and like they're having a celebration, but they really are these little like murder bear carnivorous animals that literally just ate all these people.
These are your favorite people. These are your favorite. You love Ewoks.
Dude, I love Ewoks.
You got to take all the good with the bad, man.
I do. I accept it. And you know what? They were just defending the place that they lived, and they had every right to do that. But it feels to me like, yeah, it's a little bit of a dark line to cross to be like, you're in our space. You're on our land. We're going to find fun, primitive ways to, knock over your AT-AT and whatever. And then
because we're hungry.
Right. Because we're starving and we want to eat every last one of you.
You gotta wonder if while they're talking, while the Ewoks are talking about should we go and help them, that they're just like, hey, if we win, we get to eat them. And that was it. They're like, sure, we're in now.
One of the saddest moments, and Chris actually had a really good video about this recently. Like one of the saddest moments in all of Star Wars for me is the moment in Return of the Jedi when one of the Ewoks gets killed. And his friend kind of rolls him over and realizes that he's not breathing and gets all sad.
Part.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too. Is he just sad because he's like, you're gonna miss dinner? It's gonna be delicious. We're having baked Stormtrooper.
They're probably like, we were so close to getting baked Jedi, but we'll take Stormtroopers.
We'll take Stormtroopers, yeah.
So they're looking at the menu and they're just like, I'm stuck between these two. But
what's the catch of the day?
Yeah, exactly.
But so the wild thing was, so I'm reading this and my eyes are getting all wide because I'm like, gosh, I never thought about
I just woke up, guys.
And now I'm really awake because I'm thinking of these adorable little murder bears eating their captive Stormtroopers. And then my cousin texts me, my cousin who lives in London, and he starts going off about like, I guess I never thought about the Ewoks eating Stormtroopers. And so he and I had like the same moment, roughly the same time of day.
Well, whatever time it was in London.
Well, yeah,
it was lunchtime for him.
The same
you're eating
moment.
Breakfast, he's eating lunch, and you're both like, I'm not hungry anymore.
Yeah. So I don't know where the conversation can go from here. I've got some ideas. I've got another place that we could potentially take it. But like, did you ever think about that?
I did not get that deep into my thoughts on Ewoks yet. Maybe we have a whole episode dedicated to Ewoks next after Order 66.
I mean, it would be just as brutal as Order 66, apparently.
Yeah, that's Order 67. That was next in line.
Order 67 is the Ewoks eating all the Stormtroopers.
This has really gone off the rails here.
Execute Order 67. Okay. Look out, everybody.
Can't breathe. Oh wow. That would be terrible. I don't know who would give that order, but it's probably not the Emperor.
That's a good point. Who's even asking for that?
No, this was the rebellion at that point. They're just like, you know what? Let's give them a dose of their own medicine.
We got to do what we got to do.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
I don't know where to go from here.
And that's our show.
Welcome back, folks. All right.
Like I could tell you about the conversation I had with some AI about Stormtroopers.
Oh man, where is this one gonna go? Go ahead.
So this is not Chat GPT that everybody's been hearing a whole bunch about.
Yeah.
And if you're not familiar, it seems like just in the last few months, it's come into the popular conscious that AI has gotten to a point where it can write its papers for you, and it can, basically do the things that humans used to spend hours doing.
But you can.
Yeah. And look, just a couple of years ago, the Blue Bantha Milk guys were feeding stuff into some AI, and it was spitting out ridiculous.
It was doing an advertisement right here, by the way. I didn't realize.
Yeah, what do you have?
Aha. It's like a bubbly.
Nice.
Anyway, just water.
But so the Blue Bantha Milk guys and Chris Ryans and others were getting together, and they were feeding stuff into AI, and it was spitting out ridiculous scripts that barely made sense and that were unintentionally hilarious and stuff like that. But now all of a sudden it's gotten like really sharp and clean, and stuff coming out of it does make sense and whatever. And you can kind of have a dialogue with it. And so Chat GPT recently is often overwhelmed by users, and so you can't get in. Yeah, you kind of have to wait or abandon it, which is what I did, and I went to a competitor AI platform and I started asking it questions
Okay.
about Stormtroopers.
Okay.
And specifically, like you and I were chatting about this, about how they're faceless and
Yeah.
nameless,
Yeah.
and the mask conceals who they are.
Mhm.
And some of that is storytelling, but some of that's like a practical thing of like, they come across as cold and emotionless. And if you see 20 of these guys running at you and there's no sympathy in their eyes, then you're going to react differently than if you see human beings, for example.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, like, they seem so disposable in the
Mhm.
Star Wars stories. So how many of them are there?
Mhm.
So I started talking to this AI and I asked a bunch of questions about how many of them there might be. And one of the first things I learned is that each corps of stormtroopers is made up of 4 regiments, and those 4 regiments add up to 12,800 stormtroopers.
Okay.
And there is approximately 45, according to this AI that I was talking to,
Yeah.
approximately 45,000 stormtroopers per Star Destroyer. And then somebody did the math that the AI picked up, and that means that there's 1.1 billion stormtroopers just on Star Destroyers, which seems
What?
like a lot
That
because there's
seems,
so many Star Destroyers.
I guess. So you're talking about all the Star Destroyers
Correct.
collectively. Not one Star Destroyer has 1.1
No,
billion.
all of them, the whole fleet or whatever you call it.
That's insanity.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess I could see that a little bit. I mean, it's a big galaxy.
it's a big galaxy,
You
but
probably got a lot of recruits. Like, how do you manage all that, man?
I don't know. It sounds expensive, right?
Sounds
But
very expensive.
yeah. So I just was trying to get a sense of like, what's the scale of this nameless, faceless fighting force? And suffice to say, nobody really knows, and this is all fiction anyway, but it's probably an astronomical number.
Yeah.
And it's a machine, right? Like it's constantly, as they die off, they're bringing in new ones and so on. And we can talk a little bit about that process, but so just the scale of this is something where I was like, oh gosh, that's probably there's probably even way more than I ever would have imagined.
I never thought of it that way, honestly. And when you think about, how disposable they are and how much they can't shoot, but are almost too easy to take down, they gotta be. I mean, we saw a recruitment center in Solo, but they gotta be really pedal to the metal on recruiting all the time because they've got a lot to replace, and it's a
Yeah.
big
And,
army.
and they have an endless amount of conflict that they get themselves involved in. And so
Exactly.
they need a fighting force for all these different things on Mimbin and whatever else. And
Yeah.
it's just endless. Like you can never have enough.
Yeah. And at the same time, somehow they do. So
Somehow they do.
that's actually really fascinating. Was there anything else you asked this AI?
Yeah, some personal questions, but
Oh, okay. Not like ones that make you think, like, where's the center of the universe? I don't know if that's one you would
I'm
ask.
gonna write that one down.
Okay, you can ask that one next time of ChatGPT when you log in. Well, that's all awesome stuff. I mean, let's talk a little bit about that point about stormtroopers being anonymous
Yeah.
and kind of the vision that George Lucas had for them, that they could be anyone. They are the everyman, right?
Mm,
And to the audience, they're masks, so you don't really. It's interesting. You don't really treat them like they're another human, and so when
yeah.
you see them fall, you're not like, oh, well, yeah, I feel bad for that guy. You're like, oh, it's just a stormtrooper, and
Yep.
I didn't see his face, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of makes it a little. It helps to make it a little bit more family friendly when you think about that.
Yeah, because when they get hit or when they get shot or whatever, you don't see them grimace in pain or tears or any of that stuff. It's
Right,
just
they're
that
gone.
that cold stare of the mask.
Yeah. But it's interesting, but because there are actual individuals and people under there, and the more that Star Wars has grown and developed, we've learned about that. Like when we
Mhm.
got clones, And
Mhm.
and that was another example of just like, oh, it's just a clone. We can just make another one.
Mhm.
And they did a whole storyline. And Clone Wars is all about that. Ahsoka's one of Ahsoka's characteristics, defining characteristics, is about how she treats clone troopers like actual
Yes.
humans. Um, and so I think Star Wars has kind of over the years kind of done more to personify stormtroopers. But I think one of the best examples has got to be Finn. Um,
Absolutely.
right, and I think it's interesting because in Force Awakens, they mark his helmet so that you can tell the difference from him. But then, like the whole movie, like the subplot to it is Finn, um, you know, going from the one who's wants to run from the Empire to the one who ends up fighting the Empire, and embracing that part of his character,
And
or that
becoming
journey, I should say,
an individual,
and
which is
becoming an individual. Yes,
something that he never had the opportunity to do before. And the evolution of stormtroopers is an interesting one, where you start out with clones who are literally identical to one another,
yeah,
and then you go to stormtroopers, which under Emperor Palpatine were graduates of the Imperial Academy and became
yeah,
stormtroopers that way, but then put on the helmet and became identical to one another.
yeah,
And then you had the First Order, which trained troopers like Finn from birth, where they took them away from their parents and tried to make them super soldiers or whatever, and tried to prevent them ever becoming individuals. And so a lot of like the story arc of troopers is making sure that you aren't your own person in
yeah.
different ways. And a lot of what's really cool about the sequel trilogy is Finn saying, "No, I am my own person," and discovering what all that means. And
I have a choice,
a choice, independence, I have
right?
agency, I get to pick.
Hmm.
And he does. And I think the further away that we get from the sequel trilogy, I appreciate Finn's story more and more and would like to get
Yeah,
more of it.
I know, right? That'd be
Yeah.
nice. Um, More comics. That's
More
a good
comics.
avenue for comics to fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
Um, and there's been some novelization efforts to do that too. But um, no, there was a note that I took here. I'm trying to find it. And it was something along the same lines of personifying or helping to kind of bring life to these stormtroopers. Oh, here it was. They You think about like your point about clones, right? And they didn't
Mhm.
have a choice. They were made for a sole purpose, and they had chips in their head, and they had in some cases they were modified from their original DNA to be something different, and just they were just a petri dish to you know
They're a science experiment.
exactly. You just do whatever you want, and a little bit of you know, I would imagine the doctors that were doing that cloning would had to remove a lot of emotion, right, in
Mhm,
doing
mhm.
a lot of that. So yeah, that's a difficult situation to be in. You mentioned everything with the First Order troopers that they were stolen from birth. They didn't have a choice. Um, but then you have the stormtroopers in the middle of all that did have a choice, and they did choose to join the Empire. Um, and the sad part about their story is that they were fed false information. They were lied to, indoctrinated, with the idea that they were helping, that they were imposing order on a chaotic galaxy. And I actually am stealing this line from the Stormtroopers book that I read. But like the fact that they were essentially brainwashed, um, just like the kids in the First Order would have been, to fight for a cause that they said was noble, but truly wasn't. It's sad. It's a really sad story. I mean, frankly, it kind of makes me think of some other geopolitical issues right now. Um,
Yeah, I totally agree.
but like that's essentially what these stormtroopers are
Yeah,
is brainwashed.
yeah,
And that's kind of sad when you
and
think about it.
tricked and
Yeah.
brought in under false pretenses. Like they expect to have a noble cause that they're fighting for,
Yeah.
if and when they're fighting. And it's a total bait and switch. But I that but then they start to rise through the ranks,
Yeah.
and they become the Captain Phasmas of the galaxy and things like that. So at a
Well,
certain
they
point,
at some point they don't believe themselves to be brainwashed, right? You have when Finn deters,
exactly,
there's a
yeah,
few that follow, and you see that story a little bit more in Rise of Skywalker with oh crud, what's her name?
Janna.
Janna, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. You get that with Janna a little bit more, which is exciting to see. Like there are more of them that did that. But
Hmm.
then there's the one that calls Finn a traitor and fights him at Maz's
Yes,
castle, storming
yeah,
Maz's castle. See?
yep. Here
Um
we are.
Full circle. Um, but yeah, you get that. You've got a lot of them that are kind of heavily believing the spoonful of lies that they've been fed.
But don't you think like because we'll discuss this, but there are all different types of troopers.
Yeah.
Don't you think if you got assigned to be a death trooper, you don't think you would ask yourself like, am I bad guy? Am I
Are we
bad
the
guy?
bad guys?
Are we the baddies? I thought they were
Yeah.
the baddies. I'm a death trooper. Like,
Is there an equivalent of that in the army or something like that? Like an assassin?
I don't know. I don't
Like
know.
you go, I'm an assassin. Am I the bad guy? Jason Bourne type.
No, and yeah, and you get sold a bill of goods, and they tell you that yes, you are here to eliminate a threat to
You're
the
right,
peace and the order of the galaxy.
and that's the thing is I'm not comparing the two, but
Yeah, no,
it's
yeah, but yeah, you just it seems like they kind of beat it out of you and eliminate any opportunity for individuality, and it must be so disorienting to
yeah.
be assigned numbers and letters
Yeah.
and to look around, look to your left and look to your right,
You all look the same costumes.
identical.
Well,
Sa-
unless you were a death trooper versus a stormtrooper. Yeah.
right, different troopers, but if like within your regimen, you look
Yeah.
left and right, and it's all people wearing the same thing, and it's got to start to wipe your mind clean of any sense of individuality.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, that feels like such a Palpatine thing to just
Oh,
like
totally.
a way of controlling a mass of people by messing with their heads.
Hmm. Yeah. And if that's not working, I mean, he can just use some kind of dark side trick to get them to,
Yeah.
some mind trick. Basically, the Jedi do it too.
Do you know, is there any like rhyme or reason behind the letters and numbers for stormtroopers?
I don't know. Actually, that's a good question. I bet there is. I mean, I think there is with like maybe the first letters, but like the TK. But
There's the
that's actually a good
TKs,
question.
and
I
then
mean, I know that some of them were like they were originally going to do like 1138 because of George Lucas's
because of
first film
THX.
THX, right?
Yeah.
So I mean that was originally in the plan for TK 421, I think, but they went with that instead. So I actually don't know. I mean, they're just letters and numbers. That's the point.
Yeah.
They're stripped of a name. They're
They're
given a number.
barcodes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're
Exactly.
barcodes instead of any identity. And yeah,
Yeah.
and so that that's I think some people thought of it as like a sentimental moment and like a little bit of a cheesy moment, but when in Force Awakens, when Poe calls Finn for the first time, like
Mm-hmm.
in the face
Gives them a
of
name.
gives him a name, in the face of like never having an individual identity and all that stuff, like that's kind of a powerful moment, and like
It is.
that's the type of stuff I look back on kind of knowing the whole story now and appreciating even more than I did back then, and I loved it back then. So
Well, and I know that there's some people that weren't really happy with in Last Jedi, for example, when he's like still running and he's kind of kind of a lost puppy out there sometimes. Is
finding
kind of
his
how they
way.
felt. Finding his way, still kind of deciding like, is he in or is he out, right?
Yeah.
You think of really like the psychological baggage he's got to be carrying with him from realizing he was stolen at birth or running away from the Empire and all and everything that he knew, and like there's some psychological damage
And
there that he's got to overcome,
and
and he's
knowing what the Empire's capable of from the
yeah.
inside, like yeah, like he's acting rationally by thinking like maybe I should run away.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great character. What makes it even better too is the fact that he ends up being force sensitive by the
Yes.
end of it, right? And that kind of just, I don't know. That's the icing on the cake. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, they should have planned that from the beginning. Like, to me, it kind of was planned from the beginning, because in Force Awakens, he was able to carry a lightsaber,
Yeah.
right? Like, you can't just do that. We've learned from the Mandalorian and everything. Like, you can't just do that.
Yeah.
Like, you have to have some force sensitivity and abilities to be able to do that. So, it did feel like that was kind of planted from the beginning for me.
Yeah, that's fair. Again, I'll say I hope we get a little bit more of Finn in the future in some format or another. Comic book or on the big screen would be ideal, but we shall see. So, what else about the Stormtroopers as we get them at the end in the First Order kind of stands out to you as being different from the prior incarnations of Stormtroopers?
You mean like with their armor and
Their armor, or sort of how the First Order is using them, like any of that stuff.
I don't know what you're thinking with this, but for me, one of the things that I've always loved is, and this is one thing I loved about the sequel trilogy,
Mhm.
is the Stormtroopers and the design of them, and just how much cleaner they look, and how and they're a little bit more updated. Like the black features contrasting with the white features really pops a lot more. Like, you remember that first scene, and we can get to that
Oh
in a second,
yeah,
but like
yeah. With
that very
and when they're in the shuttle and like the lights
yeah
are flickering and
yes.
they're sort of rocking around. Yeah,
And pause on that note for a second. This is how important Stormtroopers are to the franchise. That was the very
the
first scene
first visual.
of the sequel trilogy, right?
Yeah.
That was also the very first scene of the main trilogy, the
Mhm.
original trilogy. Star Wars starts. What do we see? Two ships firing at each other. We see a bunch of rebels lining up to shoot at someone. And who comes through the door but Stormtroopers?
Yeah.
They are as iconic to Star Wars as Darth Vader was.
Oh yeah.
And because Darth Vader is the one that comes in next. And it's so interesting, like the way that actually the original screenplay talks about that contrast, and how I'll literally read it right here. With fascist precision, 10 stormtroopers wearing ominous armored spacesuits drop onto the top of the disabled rebel craft. So a little bit of changes after
Yeah.
the first
Yeah.
draft,
Yeah.
as you can
Yeah.
hear. The fight ensues between the rebel stormtroopers until the remaining stormtroopers bow low toward the doorway. An awesome 7-foot Black Knight of the Sith makes his way into the blinding light of the
They
cockpit
bowed.
area. Bowed. Yeah. This is Lord Darth Vader, right hand of the Master Sith. His sinister face is partially obscured by his flowing black robes and grotesque mask, which are in sharp contrast to the fascist white armored suits of the Imperial stormtroopers. Really cool the way that they set that George set that up,
Wow.
right?
Wow. Yeah.
But so first of all, yeah, they're supposed to be in contrast, but again, like that's how important they are to Star Wars, is like that they are the first word in the sentence, right? It's how it kicks off. And to that point, it's really, I don't know if I know in any other franchise where I've seen this. When you watch Star Wars, they're clearly the villains, right?
Oh yeah.
But then you go to Galaxy's Edge, and then you see me put on a Stormtrooper helmet, and you see anyone dress up on it, and what are they? They're heroes. They're exciting. Like in real life, you are so excited. You don't see them as the villains anymore. You're like excited to see a Stormtrooper. In real life, they are almost heroes.
Yeah.
Is there any other franchise where that happens, where it's like in one form they're a villain, and the other form they're a villain or a hero?
Nothing immediately comes to mind. But that's a good point. And we wanted to talk about the 501st a little bit as well. And
Yes.
the vast majority of people who are costuming with the 501st are doing it as stormtroopers or other bad guys from Star Wars.
Right.
But mostly stormtroopers. Like I think over 90% of what I see are from different eras stormtroopers.
Right.
But then what do they do in the world? I think their motto is bad guys doing good. These are, for anybody who's unaware, these are people who dress up in cinematically accurate Star Wars cosplay, which they typically make themselves
They
from
do.
scratch. And they do stuff like go to a children's hospital,
Yeah.
walk in a parade for a charity event, raise money or food for food drives. We follow a bunch of their accounts on Facebook and Instagram, the different Starburst accounts.
Yeah.
And I saw one recently. The 501st Garrison in Tokyo went around and did a big litter pickup event. So you're walking through Tokyo and there's just stormtroopers picking up, soda cans and, candy wrappers and things like that. So we've kind of brought
They
them
like
in.
order. Maybe that's why.
Maybe that's why they're restoring order to Tokyo by picking up soda cans. But we've kind of brought them into our world and made them heroes in
Yeah.
ways, and they're not that on screen. The other contrasting thing, literally, that always stood out to me, literally, is it seems like anywhere else, armies are camouflaged in some way. And stormtroopers are always this polished, gleaming white. Like you never see any fingerprints or smudges. They're never dirty. The mouse droids are always running between their feet, cleaning the floor where they're even walking.
There are camo versions though on Kashyyyk.
There are, but most of the time when you see them, the iconic ones are like these standout bright white uniforms. So, but you're right. There are different versions for different uses. But it's just, I think maybe that's part of them being imposing is like, it's just, you can't visually miss them. Like they stand out against whatever background they're on.
Yeah. They can't hide unless they,
and they don't want to.
I don't know. Unless they stood against a white wall.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's the only one.
Yeah. It looks like they're like, so the snow troopers wearing all white. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
But
that's what makes them a little bit more menacing too, is they do blend in with their surroundings, and that was an advantage for them and for the Empire going into going into the Battle of Hoth.
Yes.
So, let's talk about some of the different kinds for a second here.
Sure.
So I mean, I just kind of rattled off a bunch earlier, right? But yeah, you do have a bunch. You have the Imperial.
Wait. Let's see how many we can name without looking at your list.
Okay, that's not nice.
Well, let's see how many we can name.
Okay. Shock Trooper.
Okay.
Is the next one. And and Shock Troopers are okay. You want to keep going with the naming thing?
Wait, what's the Shock Trooper?
So Shock Troopers are they're kind of like your I think of them similar to Death Troopers, where they're one of your highest class of Stormtroopers. Very unique skill set and some of the best in the class, so they end up being Shock Troopers. I think there are a lot of times like they protected the Emperor, they were on Coruscant and stuff. So so that ended up being and they're very distinguishable. I think, are they the ones with the red markings? I think
so.
So yeah, Shock Troopers are pretty cool. Sorry, I glanced at my list. My bad. But I said Death Troopers. That was the next one.
Death Troopers. You may remember Death Troopers from. They're the ones that are backing up Krennic when they go to find Galen Erso on his farmer planet, where he's living his peaceful life.
One of the things I've always loved about them and their design was the green lights. They're all black, and then this green light that kind of emanates from I think their eyes might be green, and sometimes they have like the little like laser.
It's like something in their mask.
Yeah, exactly. So I love that. And then the second piece is the way they speak. You notice they're not comprehensible. Like when they talk, it's not like you hear what they're saying. They're almost, but you know that they're talking. It's like they're speaking in a code, or they're speaking through a radio to each other, and you only get like the static.
I never stopped to think about that.
I'm a weirdo and nerd and stuff, so I do. But yeah, I always wondered what they're doing. Like, are they just speaking to each other?
Yeah,
and coordinating, and that's part of the advantage, is that you don't know what they're saying.
I like that.
So yeah, Death Troopers. You want to go for one next?
Scout Trooper.
Yeah. Oh, we said that one earlier.
Yeah, Scout Troopers are the ones that ride the speedors.
Oh wow!
Leave that in. Don't edit that out.
Oh no, I never do.
Scout Troopers are the ones that ride the speeders.
All right,
on Endor, that are sadly eaten at the end.
Welcome, Randy. I didn't know Randy was joining the podcast tonight. Old inside joke. Go back to episode 20 probably to find out.
Episode 2.
That was pretty early on, yeah.
But yeah, Scout Troopers.
Scout Troopers. Something interesting I read about them is that their armor is meant to be lighter and more
Oh,
flexible
that makes
because they're
sense.
riding the bike and
Yeah.
they're walking around a lot, scouting, on patrol. So
Are there
yeah,
different levels?
I don't know if there are.
Like, are there Cub Scout troopers?
What's
Eagle
your
Scout
next one?
troopers?
What's your next one? I'm
Wha-
trying to keep this on the rails. Train tracks. Keep going. What's your next one?
Oh gosh. Well, I said Snow Troopers. One of my
did?
favorite ones.
Snowtroopers?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I love Empire. I've always loved Empire. I've
Yeah.
always loved the battle scene on Hoth.
Okay.
Although I always thought it was interesting that like it became a nice, clear, sunny day for the battle scene, but I guess it just gives a better backdrop and you can see what's happening. I always thought it would have been cool
Yeah.
if it was like they were fighting in a blizzard, you know.
You can't
But
see anything. There's nothing on camera to see.
like you see like it would have been cool if they did a shot where it was like just like lasers being shot at you and you can't really see where they're coming from.
Kind of like the Attack of the Clones when there's the big sandstorm,
yes,
right?
exactly.
And you see, that's
Yes.
a cool scene.
Right. So I always like the snow troopers. I always like their outfits. I always like the I guess it's sort of like the robe and the scarf kind of hanging around their mask and they're all bundled up, but it looks intimidating and tough and cool and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
But
well,
yeah.
Let's keep going. I agree, but let's go on the darker side a little bit again. I'm going to stick with the ones that are in black. The TIE fighter ones are pretty cool, but I was actually thinking of Purge Troopers.
What is that even?
So as the name suggests, and we're going to talk about Order 66 next time, they are tied to the Purge. They are some of the elite force with not force like the force, but like a force within the ranks of stormtroopers that are in charge of hunting down Jedi. So you imagine they got to be some of the best, right?
Yeah.
And they are. Like, they give a pretty big headache to Cal Kestis, where I believe they were introduced in the video game Fallen Order. But what made it even better was then they were brought into Obi-Wan Kenobi series just recently.
Super cool.
And the I think it was specifically the 5th episode, the one where they're kind of barricaded in. Was that chapter 5? I think
might have been.
Yeah. So anyway, they're brought back into there. They're just cool. Again, that black with I think the red accent just looks cool. And that's the other thing. Like, all of these stormtroopers just look really cool, you know?
Yes.
So that was another one I was going to pick.
But so take a peek at your list. What haven't we hit yet?
Dark Troopers was the next one, which we get. I mean, they were in what's it called? The Legacy, the non-canon, you know, that Disney wiped away. Like, they're introduced there, and they started out as a droid and became like an exoskeleton.
Yeah, right. What were they introduced in? Do you know?
Well, in canon, they were introduced in Mandalorian.
In Mando, but
no, they're in Rebels. I think we get them in Rebels for the first time.
Is that the first time, or did they come up? I thought they came up even before that somewhere.
Can't remember.
Like an EU book or something like that. I don't know.
Well, they were. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I just don't know where in the extended universe they were brought up.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, when you said EU, you didn't mean the non-UK Europe.
Correct. I didn't mean the continent that the UK has turned its back on. And by the way, we're kidding around here, and if you look at our rankings of people who listen to this show or watch this show, the UK is a very close second to Guatemala, which is where most of our listeners are.
You're making this stuff up.
I am. No,
at least that last part. But the UK is, yeah.
The UK is up there. So we're doing a little bit of gentle ribbing because we are jealous that you get Celebration.
Yes, that's it. And better chocolate.
But yeah, Dark Troopers, really good one.
Yeah, and I'm wondering where they'll go. I wonder if they'll go the direction of like exoskeletons again. I mean, remember they're trying to like take.
They're trying to build like
force sensitive,
or force powered, or weaponized force powers. droids.
Yeah, so that's going to be really
That
interesting to see how that evolves.
I hope we get back to that, because that is some crazy mad scientist empire stuff.
Yes. um and so I mean there's a bunch more. There's Sith troopers
Mhm.
all clad in all red. That's kind of
Mhm.
cool. There's
Yeah.
the shore troopers, which we also get in and some of it's just like they're wherever they're located, let's just add the word in front of them: sand, shore, mud,
That's
you
like
know.
this. The Empire has like all these different vehicles that are very specific for one type of climate or terrain or whatever.
Yeah.
And it seems like they have stormtroopers for that too. Like if the in the next film installment or whatever, they discover a new type of planet that is made up of what? Give me something.
Well, don't say lava, because there's already magma troopers too. As I read.
Exactly. So if they find Bubblegum Planet, there's going to be Gum Troopers.
Gum troopers. What? I don't even want to know what that looks like.
And they'll have a gum ship that will be able to maneuver deftly through bubblegum seas.
So they'll be pink, obviously.
They'll be adorably pink. They'll be the
they'll
sweetest
be chewing,
little things.
They'll be chewing some big league chew.
Yeah, I love Big League Chew.
And spitting it out all over the place.
No, they're gonna wrap it up and they're gonna put it in a trash receptacle.
Oh, in Tokyo. No, the ones in Tokyo, the 501st will come up and clean up after them in Tokyo.
Yes.
Yeah. Gosh, we're all over the place tonight with Stormtroopers. There is well, let me do this. Okay. I did learn a lot of stuff from the Stormtroopers book, and I have some more to read and stuff with it.
Yeah,
but I did
tell me
learn
more.
a few things that I thought were really interesting. I mean, I guess this is the first one. So, McQuarrie, the artist, right? Ralph McQuarrie. One of the things that he tried to do when he was creating Stormtroopers was, create different shapes and colors and everything, because he wanted them to be distinguishable. It was always intended that from George Lucas that they couldn't hit anything. That was always the intention.
Really?
But he also insisted that they were efficient. So take that as a oxymoron to consider, a paradox to consider tonight.
Okay.
The first ever published image of Stormtroopers was in a campaign booklet for Fox. It included the McQuarrie painting of the TIE fighter, the one with him from the back, the black one, the black TIE fighter.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. How much do you think was the budget in Star Wars for the wardrobe department to create Stormtroopers?
Just for that part of the wardrobe, like just Stormtroopers?
Yeah. Well, first of all, okay, two questions. How big was the budget for the wardrobe department, and how much of that was for Stormtroopers?
The budget for the whole wardrobe department
in 1976, when they're filming,
yeah, I'm gonna say $100,000,
220. So good thinking.
Okay.
Was the total budget?
Okay.
Was that what you were guessing?
Yes.
Okay. And then of that, how much was for Stormtroopers?
$1,000.
93,000.
93,000 was for Stormtroopers?
A big portion of it was for Stormtroopers.
For the design, or for like actually manufacturing?
For creating the wardrobes, for creating the Stormtrooper.
Okay. I thought it was just for the design, but
now this is interesting. Right. So Sand Troopers and Stormtroopers, they actually have different armor. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, that's for a reason, because they're different classes and stuff, like McQuarrie's paintings like I was talking about. Sand Troopers were dirtier. They had different kind of cheeks. They had different panelings and details, and paint details. And again, McQuarrie envisioned this, but there's a practical reason actually why they were different. So the real reason that they're different is
was one of them less expensive or something?
No, the art and costume department rushed the first batch so that they could get them to Tunisia to film, and so they ended up being the Sand Troopers, and that gave them the more time to kind of finalize the details of it. And those are the ones that ended up being in the England shoots, in the actual Death Star. So that's the actual reason why they were different.
So cool.
Good book, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
All this is from this book.
I love that background stuff. That's all in that book.
Cool. Yeah, this is all stuff that I've read in just the first 50 pages of this book. The guy who plays Fixer, Luke's friend who ends up getting cut,
Yeah.
The same actor plays the Stormtrooper that gets mind tricked by Alec Guinness, by
No
Obi-Wan.
way. No
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, it's the same actor. So he made it in after all, just not with his face.
Oh.
One of the stunt coordinators, Peter Diamond, who was in Star Wars New Hope, he was in it dozens of times, and he died dozens of times
No
because
way.
he ended up being a stormtrooper. And so yeah, they like bunch of scenes of him dying, just from being a stunt coordinator in this stormtrooper costume. They just recycled him.
What a cool like conversational icebreaker to bring to a party.
He's like, that one's me, and that one's me, and I'm
Yep.
dying there. And look, I'm shooting at Luke and Leia there from under the stairs. That was him too.
That makes me think
Yeah.
though of over the years, there have been, especially since the sequel trilogy, I would say in particular, there have been a lot of different celebrities and people who have wanted to be in a Star Wars movie and who've wanted to like
That's a good point.
be on set and have the experience and just fans like you and I, but with connections that can potentially get them there. And some have successfully gotten there. And one of the ways that you can put a blockbuster actor in a Star Wars movie without distracting from the rest of the scene and not making them a main character is you make them a stormtrooper.
Yeah.
And so
It's so cool, right?
Who all, I think Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig's the first one that comes to mind because he plays the one that's like, and I'll drop my weapon.
Yes. Yep.
That's a great line. That would have been a good one to use if I was wearing a helmet right now.
Ed Sheeran a stormtrooper?
Ed Sheeran, I think, was one, and then it ended up getting cut or something like that.
Oh shoot, really? Okay,
oh,
but he
no.
got
Who was I could see his face. The one who plays in Tom Hardy.
Oh, is he one?
Tom Hardy was one. And there was this whole scene with where Finn came back in Last Jedi and was on the elevator, and one of them recognizes him. I'm pretty sure that one was Tom Hardy. And he like ribs him a little bit. It's like, oh, look at you, you've made it. You're an officer now, because he recognized Finn.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was like, yeah, I see why they cut that, but man, that would have been a great moment.
Yeah. But he got to be there. He got to have that experience. He got to be on set, and I think that's all him and Daniel Craig and Ed Sheeran and others yet to come. That's all they want, is just have this Star Wars experience.
And Mandalorian. Who's the comedian that played the one who was trying to shoot the tin can?
Oh yeah.
Oh, the Ted Lasso guy.
Jason Sudeikis. Yeah.
Wasn't he one too?
Yes, he was one. That's a really good point. So there's probably more of these to come.
And this has become, that's one of the like fun things about Star Wars, is like this has become a thing.
It's one of the fun.
Who's going to cameo that character?
Yes.
Oh my gosh! As part of the news, we didn't even talk about Bad Batch.
We didn't.
But one of the things of Bad Batch in the Faster episode was Teo, the droid, Ben Schwartz. Do you know who that is?
No, I don't. I'm racking my brain here. What would I know Ben Schwartz from?
He is the worst.
No way.
You know who I'm talking about now.
I do now. Is Jean Ralphio.
John, yeah, exactly. That's the same guy, and he's hilarious in Faster.
Oh, I love it. Okay, I gotta watch it. I'm behind.
I know. Well, and those are two. I really liked Faster in my second watch. The first watch, I was like, I don't know about this, and then I really liked it on my second one.
Cool.
Sorry we missed that in the news, guys.
That's okay.
But anyway, yeah, that's a really good point about the cameos. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
One more big thing that I learned from the book that I was really excited to tell you about was this idea of Super Troopers. Isn't that a movie?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, not the movie. Super Troopers was a concept at one point. I'm basically just going to read you what it says in here about Super Troopers. So Macquarie illustrated two types of snow troopers, an officer design and a standard infantry soldier. The officer design evolved from Lucas's idea that the Empire might deploy squads of identical white armored super commandos, according to the Empire Strikes Back sketchbook by Joe Johnston and Nilo. What's his name? Nilo Roto Yamero? I don't know that name. Anyway, but the super commandos were, quote, troops from the Mandalore system, armed with weapons built into their suits. McQuarrie and Johnson usually refer to the Super Commandos as Super Troopers, and their preliminary designs evolved into a soldier who wore a head-concealing helmet with a T-shaped visor. Are you picking up what's happening here?
Yeah, I'm seeing what is. Yeah, okay.
And a side-mounted periscopic sensor device, and a backpack that held a missile launcher. Okay, you following me? What's going on here?
Oh my gosh, this is the origin of
Lucas ultimately decided that the design for the Super Trooper would be better utilized for a single character he'd conceived for Empire, the bounty hunter Boba Fett.
Wow.
I did not know that until I read this book. So I learn something
idea.
every day. And it's got a picture of here of this white armor. I'm going to try to show it for our YouTube.
Yeah, please
friends.
do.
This white armor. Can you see it?
I've seen this picture before. Yeah, if you can raise it up just a little tiny bit. Upwards. Okay. All right.
Did I do it?
Yep.
Did I get there?
Yep.
Yeah, it's just this white Super Trooper Boba Fett out costume. It's so cool.
I love it. I love it.
Kind of like that guy that we saw at do you remember at Comic-Con?
Yes, he was doing the white suit, but it was like he had like nice sparkly crystals all over his helmet.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit like that.
So that was like a blend. Yeah, that was almost like a blinged out Super Trooper.
Yeah. So that was probably one of my favorite to learn in this one is, they were talking about the design of the Snow Troopers, but very cool. There's a few other good stuff in there, but highly recommend picking it up.
Very cool. Any other thoughts on Stormtroopers?
We didn't even get to the stuff, the Star Warriors and the 501st, the Rose Bowl parade, but we'll talk about that one maybe another time.
Okay.
But yeah, we're kind of running up on time, I guess. You're right. Did you have anything else?
No, I think we covered everything, but it's been a delightful conversation.
It has.
I'm already.
You know what? I would have been able to get to Star Warriors if we didn't talk about the Murder Bears as much as we did.
Yep, I apologize about that. Sorry,
that was the funniest stuff ever. Don't
but
apologize.
Not sorry. But I'm getting excited to talk about Order 66 next time for our 66th episode.
Which one could rarely say about Order 66.
Yeah, I'm excited about Order 66. Actually, I saw an Instagram video the other day where it was a kid who's a pretty good guitar player, and he said he has a series where he plays Life is a Highway at inappropriate moments. You know that song?
I know the song, but I can just imagine this.
And the video was it's the little Padawan kid who's like, Master Skywalker, there's too many of them. What will we do? And
what are we going to do?
Yeah. And then Anakin pulls out his lightsaber and the kid just starts playing Life is a Highway.
Oh my gosh. That's terrible.
Yeah.
And the next episode has already started.
That's where we're going next episode. So buckle up.
You know what would be funny is if we had a completely unscripted episode where we picked a topic and we did no preparations for it to see where it goes.
That's what I do every time.
Oh, really?
I'm just kidding. I have pages of notes. I genuinely do.
I know you're lying.
But so what else do we have to say? Do you want to cover our socials? Do you want to?
No, you're better at remembering those than I am. I will end with thank you again. Thank you for listening.
That's nice.
Not you. I'm thinking of you. Just thank you for being here, Jan, because otherwise I'd just be talking to myself and that'd be boring. But so I guess thank you. Yeah.
Well, thank you as well. And thank you to our audience. Thank you for everybody who so kindly listens every week or two when we drop an episode. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Stay safe from that COVID thing. It sucks. Stay cool, San Diego. I don't know what else to say, but just thank you for listening and thank you for the support. It's always great to hear from you. So please reach out to us on all of our socials, whether that's see, you're better at this than I am. Twitter at the Star Bros Podcast, right?
At Star Bros Podcast.
See, this is why you do this. You can email us at thestarbrospodcast@gmail.com.
That's right. Yeah.
You can reach out to us on Facebook or Hive. Did I miss anything? Social
Nope.
Master.
No, just remember
Social Trooper.
We are on the Broaxium YouTube channel. We're very happy and proud to be part of the Broaxium family. You can find us on the Broaxium YouTube channel, not only doing our show, but we do quick shot comic book previews. So we do spoiler-free previews of Star Wars comics. typically like a day or two before they come out. So if you're following along any of those, you can find me and Ben on there doing those. Plus all of our friends who are our fellow bro hosts. And then you can find the show wherever you get your podcasts. I'm always amazed by how many different podcast platforms there are now. When I go to look at like some of our metrics, there's stuff that I've never even heard of. But if you're on Apple Podcasts, or if you're going to go looking for us on Spotify or any of the other big ones, we're on there. Leave a review. That makes our day. But most importantly, we're just happy you're here. We're happy that you're listening, and we're happy
Hopefully
to keep
laughing with us instead of at us.
or at whatever.
We'll take it.
As long as you're having a good time, we're happy.
We
So
got thick skin.
thank you. And then there's one more thing to say, and I think it's your turn.
It's a wrap.
Wow, you got right to it.
I just got to it. I just want to throw you off.
Impressive. Most impressive.